Today on Real Life in Real Estate, you must be a market expert. Hi there, and welcome to Real Life in Real Estate. I'm Mark Peebles, here to help you live your best life and achieve ultimate success, but I am not alone today. I am with the one, the only, the incredible solo host from just a few weeks ago, Natalie Correa. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited that you're on.
Thank you for allowing me to come back.
Well, I am so happy that you are. It's funny. I want to just address the elephant in the room. I'm not calling you the elephant, but
Thank you. Appreciate it.
But a couple of weeks ago, when Natalie hosted, she did a phenomenal job. I'm very proud of you. And she talked about being a new agent and the things that she has experienced as a new agent. But she did make a comment on there that she used to be on the show more often, except that I stopped letting her do that when she had a baby. So can we clear the air on this a little bit?
You know, I stand by it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. I bet you do.
Yeah. Well, it was
You're
funny
fired.
Because I know. Because I was making a joke, but then I didn't let the joke be a joke. So I was like, I listened back. I was like, that sounded a little too serious.
I was listening to it.
He didn't kick me off. Guys.
I was listening to it, and I was like, I sound like a terrible person.
Yeah, at least say it was a joke, Natalie. Nope, I didn't. I'm so sorry.
Well,
it was a joke, everybody.
It was a joke. Ha, 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 ha. Now we've got our laughs out. Today, though, we are going to get into some things that Natalie and I have been working through. Actually, Natalie recently got her real estate license, as she talked about. But I've been mentoring her.
Yep.
Natalie, though, comes with experience into the real estate game because she has actually been the director of engagement for NavX Realty. That's the company that I own. And Natalie's been the director of engagement, marketing, communication, events.
All the things.
And she's been working with agents and leaders in the industry now for almost a couple years.
Year.
Yeah, a little over a year.
A year and some change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, now she's licensed. This was one of your dreams, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so she's licensed, fulfilling a dream that she's had for many years. And I get the privilege of mentoring Natalie.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be great. I'm excited.
One of the things, though, is that Natalie, when we started, like that first time that we sat down training, I told you need to be what?
A market expert.
That's right. And you were.
That was a hard test.
It was.
Passed.
I'm so glad you got it right because if you didn't, this was over.
I was going to get up and just walk out and let you continue.
And I probably would have. Everyone knows that I can talk alone, right? But
you do a great job. Don't worry.
But that said, that was one of the first things I tell every agent is you need to be a market expert. And I'll never forget when I said it to you, you're like, okay, I have no experience in the market.
What's a market? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. And so that's what we want to talk about today is, okay, how do I become a market expert? And for those of you out there that have been in this business for a long time, you might even be able to pull some things out of this today in terms of how you can up your game, take your business to the next level in terms of being a market expert.
Absolutely.
And so the first thing I want to talk about, Natalie, is learning to study the market. So Natalie, before we came on camera, was like, don't ask me questions, but I'm going to ask you a question. Natalie, as we got started, one of the early things I taught you was how to study the market. Do you remember the term that we used for that? Nope.
I can't believe you're doing this.
I know. I'm doing it to her anyway.
The term we use for that?
Absorption rate?
Oh,
remember?
yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Hey.
She didn't know where I was going with that.
I know the terms, but I'm putting them all together.
Yeah,
which is a part of this, I guess.
So I taught you absorption rate. What does that tell us about the market?
It tells us where the market's going, where it currently is.
How the market's moving.
How it's moving.
Yep.
There we go.
That's exactly right. So I think that this is one of the foundational pieces to being able to read a market.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to becoming a market expert, you need to know how the market is moving. Now, there are some great resources for this out there. Here's an example. You can go into your MLS system, wherever you are in the country. A lot of MLS systems do a very good job providing market statistics, and you can kind of gauge how the market is moving this year versus last year. You can see month over month how the market is moving based on those MLS statistics. But if you want to learn to read it yourself, you would use an absorption rate. Now, the way that we do this is, as an example, one of the markets that Natalie and I work in is Springboro, Ohio. Okay, so if we went into all of Springboro, we could pull, Natalie, the data for how many sales happened in the last 3 months. Sales and pendings we'll usually pull with that. And then we can also pull the actives to see how many actives there are. Now, to see how the market is moving month to month, you would take those sales and pendings for the past 3 months, add them together. That's, probably call it 100 sales, and then you divide that by 3. We're looking at the last 3 months of data versus how many actives there are today to see how the market is moving. And so what we do is we divide the number of active by the number of homes that are selling each month. That's your sold and pendings. And that gives us an absorption rate. So in a very fast-moving market, that could be like, 0.25 homes are selling, or homes are taking 0.25 days to sell, or 0.25 months to sell.
Yeah, what I started doing because it's such a great seller's market right now is I don't do months a lot of times when I'm presenting it to a client because I want them to be able to understand it a little bit better. Instead of putting decimals, I will then multiply by 30?
Yeah, times 30. So 0.25 times 30
because
gives
I'll
you...
make it days.
Yep.
And so then instead of having months on months absorption rate, then I do days. So then it makes a little bit more sense instead of a decimal. But that's just my personal...
Well, and that's also... That can be market to market because we could go to actually some sub-markets around the greater Dayton or greater Cincinnati area where we practice... And we might have a month or 2 months of inventory. Where you might have 3 months of inventory. There are markets across the country that are running a longer absorption rate. But what does this tell us? So if it is 1 to 4 months or 0 to 4 months, we are in a seller's market. Right?
Yeah. See, I got a little nervous when I was talking about it because I was like, I want to say this right. It is seller's market.
You did get it right. So then
I know it. It's just getting used to talking about it.
I get it. Then I know, and we're practicing through that today, so you're more comfortable with clients, right? Okay, so then if we are 4 to 6 months, we are in a more
I don't actually
balanced market, right? Because she's only had to talk about sellers markets.
Yeah, I've only talked about sellers or buyers. I've never talked about the balance in between.
And we haven't been in a balanced market for a long time, but we really have not been in the last one, which is 6 or more months of inventory, which is a buyer's market. Now, I lived through a buyer's market. Back in 2008, when the market crashed, we went into a big-time buyer's market. I don't think we're going to come anywhere close to a buyer's market for a long time. I mean, I think we might push towards a balanced market depending on what happens over the next couple of years. Who knows what's going to happen with interest rates? If interest rates drop, then all of a sudden we might see a super seller's market again across the country. But we got to wait and see what happens. But absorption rate, definitely the first way that you need to learn to study your market. So you can do this a number of different ways. You can do it by price range. If you focus on luxury, you might want to say, I'm going to search 500 to $1 million, or I want to search 700 to $1 million, whatever you consider luxury in your market. That's what you would search. If you're in California, you would start a luxury market at 4 million, right? Just dumb numbers, like crazy numbers that we're not used to here in Ohio. But all of that to say, you can search out submarkets. So you can look at your city or your town or within a school district. You can narrow that down by specific price ranges. You can also do searches of sub-communities, neighborhoods. So maybe you live in a golf course community that you're going to farm. You want to know how that neighborhood moves. Maybe you're going to focus on that neighborhood, and that's where you can pull the stats from just that neighborhood, and now you're becoming the market expert, understanding how real estate is moving in that neighborhood. Okay, so number one is that you need to learn how to study the market. I think the best way to do that is by understanding absorption rate. And I know we gave you a quick analysis of that. I have other episodes that we have done, and I've talked about doing annual real estate reviews.
I was going to say, that's how I'm learning this. Is
Right.
I'm practicing by connecting with a bunch of my clients. I'm doing annual real estate reviews. And through that, every single one I do has an absorption rate on it.
Exactly.
And so I get to connect with them about what that is, and that's helping me become a market expert.
Absolutely. Boom.
Let's go.
High five. Woo. Okay. Did you get the high five? I'm just kidding. Sarah's in the room taking social media content, and hopefully she got that. All right. So we want you to be a market expert.
Yes.
Now, I think, Natalie, there are some other really good tools that we can use to also increase our knowledge of the market, increase our knowledge of what's going on in real estate. And honestly, as agents, I think we need to be aware of things that are going on in the industry. We need to be aware
Absolutely.
of what the news is reporting, what articles are out there. We need to understand what affects mortgage rates. We need to understand the outside influences on the greater real estate market. And so there's a number of tools I like to use. One of those, Natalie, that you and I have talked about, in fact, you've done some work with it. That's facts.realtor.
Yes.
Right,
I've
so-
been on Facts.Realtor a lot.
You have, right. So last year, major changes in the real estate
Yes, a lot
industry.
of changes.
We needed ways to communicate what was changing. And for all of the bashing that the National Association of Realtors took last year, they actually created this great site. There's some consumer stuff on there. There's actually a lot of consumer stuff on there, but there's a lot of tools and resources for us as agents at facts.realtor. So Natalie, what are some of the things that you've seen on facts.realtor?
Well, there was a bunch of different consumer guides is what I was taking a big look at and and looking through those and understanding the verbiage of those. So like buyer agency agreements and things like that.
Why do I need to sign this agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the National Association of Realtors is providing a document
Yes.
that I can take with me that I show up to an appointment with a buyer I've never met before, and I'm asking them to sign the first time I meet them, and they're like, well, why would I sign this document? Great. I
here's my
actually
other.
have a consumer guide. And honestly, those consumer guides, I would actually send them out in advance, right? They have consumer guides for sellers on there. They have
Yes.
consumer guides for different loan types on there. There's a lot of great
stuff.
resources on there. I encourage you to check out facts.realtor. Now, another one of my favorites, Natalie, is keeping current matters.
Yes,
Natalie hears
He
me.
talks about it all the time.
Yep, she hears me talk about this stuff
I
all
like
the
them.
time.
Yeah.
They're awesome. And so what Keeping Current Matters does, and really one of the most valuable tools that they have besides their social media posts and all that kind of stuff, is that they do a monthly market report where they talk about what's happening in the greater real estate market. It's mostly nationwide focused, but they'll bring it down to local levels a little bit in their monthly market report. Here's what I love about it, though. They actually provide slides and data that you can use, and they give you the words to use to talk about it. And so you can actually download the script from the monthly market report.
Do they provide scripts for you?
They do. They provide the
Yes.
scripting. They'll give you basically exactly what you need to say about each slide.
That's so cool.
Which is one of the things I love. You can download it as a PDF. You can download the individual slides as JPEGs. And then basically you can load that in your phone and you could say, hey, let me show you why being a for sale by owner is not going to net you as much money, which there was a study that just came out. I think it was like the average for sale by owner makes $40,000 less.
Yes.
Am I right on
Yeah,
my number there?
I actually did a social media post about that.
Okay, boom, look at that.
And here's the thing. If I was using Keeping Current Matters consistently, which I have a different platform that I was using, but if I was using this consistently, I would be making social media content out of this.
Yep.
And I would find some of the key articles. I would use AI to help me write a script. If the script that they had was a little too long, just short it a little bit, and then I'd create reels. And then you're a market expert to your social media.
Absolutely.
It's all the things, guys.
It is all the things. But this, as agents, number one thing that I talk to agents about, they're like, I hate social media. I never know what to post. And of course, if anyone's been following me on social media, you can see that a lot of the stuff that I've been posting has not been totally business related. But if you want a good laugh,
I think
you
a
can go.
good adjective is goofy.
Goofy. That is a
that
good.
an adjective?
Yeah, that
Yes,
is.
yeah.
I make goofy videos.
You make goofy
It's my
videos.
creative outlet. I have a lot of fun with it.
It's
but
not a bad thing.
You can check that out at, let's see, on Instagram, it's at It's Peebles. On Facebook, it's at It's Mark Peebles. So go check out my silly reels that I do on there. But I do mix some business things in there. And this gives you the exact language that you need to use and a visual that you can use with it. So I am encouraging you to start using your these resources to build content. A couple more that I want to hit. If you want to keep up with news in the real estate industry, but not just real estate industry news, I've got resources for that as well. But you want to see what consumers are hearing and what they're seeing. Weekly Real Estate News is a resource that I have always liked to keep my subscription to. It's free. You subscribe to it, and then they send out the emails. What this does is it might send you an article from NerdWallet. It might send you a CNN article. Then it'll send you some blog posts from some agent across the country that has a data source. I mean, it's all kinds of different information, but it is things that consumers have access to. And Natalie, I think it's really important. We need to know what consumers are hearing.
Absolutely.
In fact, I did a show, and that is coming back, called Real Talk Real Estate Show, to help cut through the confusion, navigate the noise, and ultimately help buyers and sellers and investors make good real estate decisions. And so part of that, though, is that people become paralyzed when they hear tariffs are going to end the world, right? No, you just need to understand how they work and then understand how to have conversations around that. So I like Weekly Real Estate News to see what consumers are consuming and then be able to put together how I'm going to respond to that to cut through the confusion, navigate the noise. Natalie, actually, recently, you and I were on a webinar, right? With name was Habib. His first name is slipping my mind, but that said, he is an expert.
Oh my gosh!
And let's see, he's won the Crystal Ball Award like 4 times, which this award is for people who make predictions about the market, and then the year after they look back at the predictions to see how accurate they are. This guy's won it like 4 times. It's a very difficult award to win. But Natalie, talk to me a little bit about that, because that was probably an hour webinar.
Yes,
and we were
a ton of information.
How many pages of notes did you take?
So many. So I got overwhelmed. And what was funny is we were with another guy who's in our group, and he started taking videos.
Yeah,
he's just recording it, so you can go back and watch it later because it was so good. It just talked about what's happening in like tariffs and what's happening in the world around us that's going to affect the real estate market, which was so helpful because, there's so many conversations happening right now just about what's happening in the stock market and what's happening in all these different things that are just the shifting of presidents always takes a toll and like different stuff like that. So he was talking about what this is going to do in the next few months and kind of projecting for the quarter what was going to happen. And it was so helpful. Yeah. And it just creates a mentality. It helps you just put it in your mind so you continue to get the mindset of being a market expert.
And one of the things that I did, he was specifically talking about tariffs in one part. And remember, I instantly got my video started so that we could be recording it because I was like, we need to be able to communicate this, right?
Absolutely.
And so what we're doing is we're filling our minds with knowledge, and she talked about our group. What we do then is we practice communicating that to each other so that when we do get in front of a client and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do anything in the real estate market because of tariffs, or I don't want to, the rates are too high, or they give you this objection. Well, now you can reference data, which honestly, Keeping Current Matters helps with that. And then also, being on these webinars, that kind of stuff, filling your mind with those things and learning how to have those conversations, it's only more going to solidify you as a market expert. And here's what I want to tell you from that. So we had this day, I went on Natalie's first listing appointment with her right after that. And here we are, we're talking to the seller. And Natalie starts spitting out some of the data that we had just learned this week, that week. This was several weeks ago. But she starts spitting out the data, and I'm like, you go, girlfriend.
You go, girlfriend.
Girlfriend, you do that. You do that.
I was proud of myself.
Yeah. You were. And you should be. You should be.
It's because like I've known about this industry my whole life. My family was in real estate and being able to work in real estate, and now I'm like, okay, now I am in the driver's seat and I have to take initiative.
Yep.
And so now I get to put to action all these things that I know, and all these, like, I call them filing cabinets in your brain.
Yep.
You just have to start opening those up and really start using them.
Yep. And and it takes practice to do that.
Yes.
You need to know. My wife makes fun of me because she'll catch me talking to myself in the shower, and she'll like peek through the curtain and be like, who are you talking to? What are you talking about? You know,
so weird.
because that is what I do. That's my time where I love hot showers. It's one of my favorite things in the world. And I will start talking to myself, practicing my conversations. And you do need to practice. You know, the first time that you're spitting it out shouldn't be when you're sitting in front of a client.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, Natalie, I'll kind of sum up this whole conversation with this. There's a lot of agents who learn how to write contracts, right? There's a lot of agents that can show houses. I've heard people say before, a monkey can open the door, right? Mm-hmm. But it's having market knowledge that sets you apart, right? So you can either be the bare minimum agent and get someone to the closing table, or you can earn lifelong clients who trust you because they realize Natalie knows her stuff, right? Natalie understands the market. Wow, no one's ever explained that to me like that. And all she did was put in the little bit of time to study it, a little bit of time to practice it. You're not spending hours on this every week. You can update yourself on what's going on in real estate news, like the monthly market report from Keeping Current Matters, which is mykcm.com. No, they're not a sponsor of this show, but that is something I highly recommend. But you go on there, their monthly market report is 20 minutes long, right? Yeah. You can pull 2 or 3 talking points out of that and be an expert to your clients, and you didn't have to spend hours and hours and hours doing it. And guess what? 2 weeks from now, after you've shared it with 10 different people, now you're fluent with it. Now you're feeling really good with it, and you find ways to bring it up in conversations, building your credibility, and ultimately landing more clients. So that's what I had for today, Natalie.
That's great.
And what else? What am I missing?
Happy to be here. No, I'm just kidding. Really, honestly, if you take the time to invest in your real estate knowledge, then you will become a market expert.
That's right.
You take time to invest in Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and whatever you do, then you're going to be an expert in that.
Yep.
So just choose to feed yourself with good things that'll help you advance in the real estate world.
Yeah, but think if you can be an expert in social media and you're a real estate expert,
easy.
How much further it goes.
So much farther.
Yeah, for your business, right?
Yeah,
and your life.
And
life. Okay, well, that's Real Life and Real Estate today. Remember, Real Life and Real Estate is brought to you by
Advantage Home Warranty.
Advantage Home Warranty. Good job, Natalie. AdvantageHW.com. I keep a home warranty on my own home, and I highly recommend Advantage Home Warranty, a local Ohio company. Great service. They own their own plumbing and HVAC company, and they're the kind of company that I let work on my house. And if they're working on my house, I think they should be working on your house and the houses and homes of your clients as well. AdvantageHW.com is where you're going to learn about them. All right. Hey, have an awesome week, and we will be back with you next week.